Buddy Jan here in the Show Me Live News Center. We are live with Matt Bailey. He is at NATO in Washington, D.C. Matt, please tell us about the press conference that just went on that you were a part of.
Yes. So this was perhaps the most crucial presidential press conference in the last, I would say, 30 or 40 years, as it certainly determined the fate of President Biden and whether or not he could show the nation that he has the ability to stay in this race. The press conference struck a defiant yet humble tone. He was not aggressive, but President Biden chose to defiantly say that he was staying in the race rather than make the case for his ability to continue the next 4 years, the work that he says he wants to continue. Of course, we all saw in the beginning of the press conference that he made one of his trademark gaffes, and he called Vice President Harris Vice President Trump. And later on in the
Mhm.
press conference, he was directly asked whether he would step aside if Vice President Harris fared better in polling head to head against Trump. As we know, the New York Times reported that internally Democrats are polling Kamala Harris against Donald Trump at this juncture. So he did not flub, but I don't know if he instilled much confidence in Democratic voters. The most interesting and articulate that President Biden was during this time was talking about the foreign policy accomplishments here at the NATO conference and the things that he wants to continue, in particular, breaking up President Xi's relationship with President Putin of Russia, President Xi, of course, with China, president of China. So he had strong answers there, but when pressed on his campaign, it was as weak as it has been in the interviews that he's done, at least in the view here. And of course, to see the president in person, there is a marked difference between him being on teleprompter and him being unscripted, as they call it, taking questions.
Right.
Now, there were a list of people that they took questions from. I was not on that list, but they were tough on him. Again, at one point, he was directly asked if he would step aside if his vice president fared a little better. And I do apologize, by the way, for the angle. We didn't quite know we'd be able to go live here in the media room. So I'm just set up against a tripod here. So you're looking at the roof, but I would like to show you this is the room where it happened, so to speak, to borrow a popular phrase. And it was a very interesting and complex conversation. Again, he was strongest talking about foreign policy, not so strong talking about the campaign. He did stop himself a couple of times when he felt himself uh, uh, about to make a gaffe, and he also took his time, formulated his thoughts to give an answer. So it's not the Joe Biden of 2020, but it certainly is not the Joe Biden of June 27th. So only time will tell how Democrats will respond to this performance tonight.
Now, you were telling me off air, Matt, that this was a very important press conference.
Yeah.
How important was this to the Biden campaign?
Make or break. This was make or break. If he had gaffes, major gaffes, like he did in the debate, like he did with the George Stephanopoulos interview, saying, "I don't think I watched the debate," uh, it would have been over. There was also some worry that because they kept pushing what was supposed to be at 5:30 back, and he walked out shortly before 7:30, there was some concern that if this canceled, that was it. That was it for the campaign. He was avoiding the press, avoiding the this needed confrontation. This was almost like a therapy session for the American public. They needed to hear from their commander in chief that he's capable to do the job. Whether or not he made the case and whether or not he will continue to have Democratic backing, that remains to be seen. Certainly, we can't rewind the clock to 2010, 2012, but we need to see he needed to project a coherent image, but there's still concern that coherent image and just being able to put sentences together is going to be enough to defeat President Trump in November, which of course is the Democrats' goal.
Right. Now, what is the atmosphere there like since this wrapped because, like you said, he had a lot of gaffes calling Trump vice president. I mean, what is the atmosphere like in the room right now?
Well, I will say one of the things that had everybody looking at each other was he told the delegates that are going to get together and vote him to be the nominee. He said, vote your conscience. And if enough Democrats have lost, if enough Democratic delegates have lost confidence, we're going to have what's called a brokered convention, and it's going to open up. And he may not win at the convention if they really do vote their conscience. They are not locked to the president. As he said, that's how our democratic process works. But he said it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Uh, so time will tell. I will be at the Democratic convention. And certainly, this is a monumental, consequential time in American history.
Yeah. And I've been telling everybody all week, because usually you're on with me in the evenings, that you've been on assignment. Clearly, you are.
Yes.
You're actually going to be at the RNC next week as well, right?
Yes. And I will try to report as much as I can from there. I'm actually there for another client, but I will try to be there. I will try to report in on Show Me Live as much as I can. So I think, yes, I think we will be keeping everybody updated on these political developments as they continue.
That's right. Anything else that we need to discuss before we hop off here? Because it sounds like they might be kicking you guys out of that room.
We There was a bar for President Biden, and we're not quite sure if he met it. Certainly, he didn't fall below the bar in any noticeably terrible way, like in the debate and like in the George Stephanopoulos interview. But still, the worry remains, and I think this you asked about the mood in here. The worry remains if that performance can be consistent. You can't age in reverse. You can only age up, and the fact of the matter is, President Biden is aging, and how that'll look on the political stage domestically and internationally, that's an important factor to consider. The Democrats consider Donald Trump a threat to democracy. That is an important part of their campaigning platform this year. And if they believe that President Biden is too weak, that question still needs to stay open about replacing him on the ballot. For Show Me Live in Washington, D.C., I'm Matt Bailey.